Again, good morning or good afternoon to everyone. And this is our fourth lecture for our fourth topic for assessment in learning 2. And we would like to discuss now this subject of affective assessment. What is affective assessment? This type of assessment deals with the affect dimension of students' learning. The affective domain, from the Latin affectus, means feelings, including a host of constructs like attitudes, values, beliefs, opinions, interests, and motivation. They are the non-cognitive outcomes of learning that are not explicitly demonstrated. And affective assessment looks into how students feel while they are learning and how their learning experiences have influenced their emotions and future behavior. For the question, why affective assessment? Why are we concerned with the feelings and attitudes of our students? Teaching is also knowing and understanding students as learners and human beings. It is essential that teachers know the feeling of pleasure, enjoyment, or even anxiety that learners experience because these feelings will have bearing on their attitudes, motivation, and beliefs that will eventually be manifested in their future behavior. And of course, if you know their feelings, it will individualize the teacher's approaches to students and eventually reshape the lesson plan based on the identified needs of students. Also, assessment on the affective domain is important for students themselves. Self-awareness of feelings, emotions, and attitudes can make students reflect on how they are in the process of learning. This type of metacognition or self-awareness has proven to enhance learning and contribute to success in academic works. Cognitive and affective assessment should work in tandem as what empirical studies have proven. Knowledge of what students view, perceive, and feel as they are engaged in learning activities will guide teachers to improve their teaching strategies and enhance learning. Effective assessment can provide supplemental information about a learning difficulty or behavior problem that affects learning. The low performance of students may be caused by affective factors such as attitude, interest, and motivation. According to Stiggins, motivation and desire represent the very foundation of learning. Yeah, this is a very important concept for all of us as teachers. Motivation and desire represent the very foundation of learning. Popham contends that affective variables are often more significant than cognitive variable. And let's look now on the taxonomy or the important elements of the affective domain. Revise Bloom's taxonomy of cognitive processes as the following elements or taxonomy: remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. The affective domain of learning was developed actually by a student of Bloom whose name was Scratwall. And his taxonomy serves as a guide in doing affective assessment. So let us review again the taxonomy of affective domain. Level 1 is to receive. In this level of affective behavior, the learner demonstrates awareness and passive attention in an activity that is happening such that he or she gives attention to that activity. This level of this level of affective domain involves willingness to receive the stimulus. For example, looking at the teacher during lecture is an awareness on a learning stimulus. That's why those who are doing so many things as their teacher speaks does not seem to be interested on what the teacher is lecturing. Listening and paying attention indicate willingness in receiving that teaching or stimulus. The second level is to respond. In this case, the learner reacts positively to a given stimulus or information that has been received. Active attention and response to a particular phenomenon or stimulus is shown by the students. For example, if a learner participates in a class discussion and not merely listening, then the learner is in the level of behavior. This behavior may be compliance to a given task or a voluntary engagement or doing an activity with some form of interest. The third level of the taxonomy of affective domain is to value. This is the level where the learner demonstrates commitment to the object, knowledge, or activity. Values are manifested through overt behaviors, and the student is attaching value or worth to a certain phenomenon or object. For example, picking up litters outside the classroom without teacher's presence, or saving money for a book or putting lights off after class on own volition are a valuing behavior because they already show some form of commitment. And the fourth level is actually to organize. This is the level where the learner has internalized and integrated their feelings, emotion, beliefs, opinions, resulting to actions where new values and traits emerge. Organizing values into priorities by comparing, relating, and synthesizing specific values is a part of this organized level. For example, in this level, the learner is able to discern independently the right from wrong, and he or she is able to make a decision what is more valuable based on his or her own judgment. So there is now the so-called prioritization. A person now prioritizes what he believes and what he values. And the last level is to characterize. This is where the learner show consistency of the behavior that establishes an image or character of the learner. The behavior extends beyond the school setting and becomes part of their lifestyle. Having personal value system that is now a characteristic of the learner is this level of to characterize. For example, if doing an experiment it has instilled the value of patience, such trait could be carried over to the student's non-science activities. So, in this level of characterization, the value or the moral values or even other form of values becomes his own values. So those are the taxonomy of the affective domain. Now, let us ask, what are the affective variables in learning? Okay, when we say feelings, okay, or affective variables, to what do we refer to? Actually, we refer to basically to five variables. Number one is attitude. This means we are referring to a person's reaction, whether positive or negative, favorable or unfavorable, towards an object, activity, person, or environment. In teaching, this will be concerned with attitudes toward learning, the subjects, the teachers, the classmates, homeworks, and projects, even attitudes with wearing of uniforms, and even attendance to flag ceremonies and others. We all desire to foster positive attitudes. On the other hand, we also want students to have a negative attitude on things like cheating, bullying, fighting, drugs, absenteeism, and even smoking. It is important to note that attitude cannot be taken as solely affective. It also has a cognitive element where the learner has the content knowledge that defines the worth or value of the object or situation. Cognitive knowledge can just be a contributing factor to effect a desired affective outcome. Of course, but not necessarily. Others know that smoking is wrong, and even the government has pictures on the on the cover of the cigarettes, but still so many will smoke. So cognitive knowledge is just one of the factors of attitude. Attitude is also much more a personal decision than a personal knowledge. The second affective variable is what we call values and beliefs. What are values? Values are characteristics or traits that a person holds in high importance. These include principles that one considers to be right, consequently, which guide the person's future actions and decisions. In a school setting, values that are included in the curriculum are honesty, patience, perseverance, respect for others, cleanliness and order, care for the environment, and etc. Beliefs, on the other hand, refer to our opinions or convictions we hold to be true even without evidence. While beliefs are traditionally associated with religion, they have been talked about in the field of education. There are such things as beliefs about mathematics, freedom, gender equality, marriage, and others. Beliefs emanate from multiple sources. It is not just from imagination, but also came from what one hears, sees, reads, and experiences. Values are developed from beliefs. Beliefs as well as values can change over time from learned experiences. As such, it is important that teachers provide positive learning experiences to students because from these experiences they form beliefs that lead to the formation of values that are desired. These beliefs and values determine attitudes, which are correlated with the learner's performance. So we have the so-called beliefs, and then we value we have our values because of those beliefs, and then we come to attitudes. This sequential relationship reinforces the importance to assess these affective factors that can aid teachers in developing their instructional plan to attain intended curriculum goals and objectives. Now, the third affective variable, okay, we have the so-called attitude, then we have the values and beliefs, and then we have interest. Interest is a psychological state that draws a person's attention to an object, idea, or event. In a classroom setting, it is what students are into or the learner's disposition about a topic such as reading, science, mathematics, history, and etc. And many of you have chosen their major maybe because of some form of interest. It is interest that drives the learner to be attentive to the topic of discussion or engage in any academic activity. Of course, interest may be personal, which means really from your heart, or maybe it is just situational, okay? Which means because of the context that you have. Whether personal or situational, interest is important for the teacher to know how students are receptive on the content that is covered in the lesson. If there is low interest, as revealed from the assessment results, the teacher can think of intervention strategies to address the problem, like creating learning experiences that are more exciting to engage students in interaction with peers or with teachers. Interest is directly linked with enjoyment and joy in doing something. The fourth affective variable is the so-called motivation. Brown defines motivation as an inner drive, impulse, emotion, desire that moves one to a particular action. It arouses and sustains behavior. It can lead to an increased effort and energy to pursue a goal. If a learner is highly motivated, he is she willing to give his or her time and effort to reach a goal. It brings a learner to excitement and enjoyment to an academic task and enhances cognitive processing and improves learning. Ausabel identified 6 needs and desires that are integral parts of motivation. He says that exploration, the need for exploration motivates people to maybe to travel or to do something. You know, many of those who have been into drugs might be because of curiosity, no? So, but you see, drugs are addictive, or illegal drugs are addictive, and they became, what's that? Slaves or the pushers or the drug lords, and the drug lords are very happy to to see them being slaves of them, giving money, no, more money to them. Maybe manipulation is also the reason why someone is motivated to do something. The need for activity is just for activity, stimulation, knowledge, and even ego enhancement, pride is a motivation or motivational uh, factor. The last is self-confidence. This refers to how a person feels about his or her abilities to accomplish a task or reach a goal. It is the person's perception of himself, no, or her capabilities to perform successfully the task given to him or her. Empirical studies shown self-confidence is also associated with academic success. Now, for your assignment, I want you to create a graphical presentation of assessment of effective learning. And I will give this, what's that? I will give this form to you or this slide to you, and please, you can write on them, no? Do not, my instruction is do not do any other form. Just fill up the form. For example, why assess affective domain? Of course, you should answer and do not fill it so much. I think you can have 4 reasons for assessing affective domain. And then levels of affective learning, we have 5 sample behaviors. Anything you write, as long as it is a behavior, is a good sample. Affective learning variables, we have 5. And then I hope you can research also for the measuring tools of the affective learning, which are basically 4. So thank you for listening to this first part lecture on affective assessment. God bless you all.